Gerald Gibson,
Here.
Becky Coyer, Chris Kuhn.
Can they talk?
No, so we know who we're talking to.
If we don't know them.
Correct.
Okay, as you know, today just another special meeting workshop on what we plan on doing with the fire department in the future, as far as you're going to have paid on call, 12-hour shifts for 7 days a week. I guess today we'd like to discuss, I know at the end of the last meeting we wanted to bring up, talk a little bit more about authority between Pinconning City, Fraser, Mount Forest, Garfield, as far as having authority about working together. We can discuss that today. And also maybe include Northern Bay Ambulance in that discussion. So I'm open to discussion. Yes. Name, please.
My name is Bob Moffett. I'm the incoming city manager for Pinconning. I've got a good background in finance and economics and millage and crunching numbers, so I'm going to make myself available to support you guys and help you through this process and change, and I can help with projections on millages of the different units if that's part of what you need. But I know it's the passion of our mayor to help us move forward, and I'm here to support those efforts, and I'll be at as many of these meetings as I can to help you with that.
Thank you, Bob.
Would it be nice to have an introduction of the audience so
Yeah.
they know
Who everybody is.
who everybody
Sure.
is and maybe what?
Want to go down the line?
Yeah, sure.
These gentlemen.
Leroy Day, Garfield.
Steve McDaniel. Dow Sweaty, Pinconning Township trustee.
Matt Lawler, Mount Forest Township trustee.
George Augustinian, Fraser Township trustee.
Paul Mazzel, Director, Northern Bay.
Dave.
Pinconning Fire Chief, Dave Ramsey.
Ron Huss, Pinconning Fire Department.
Mike Ryan, the Mount Forest Township Supervisor.
Michelle Fay, public comment.
Okay. Dave, did you have any more on the authority? I know you wanted to get
I just,
the other groups together.
basically, I didn't get anybody together. Just basically, I did talk to Bob in regards to doing something through with Northern Bay.
Right.
Because our big thing is covering the medical runs is our big concern that we are covered in our Northern Bay area for the medical runs during the daytime, and that's our big concern.
Did we talk with the Garfield at all?
You got the Garfield person right there.
Mr.
As
Days
far
here from
as-
Garfield. I have a chief's meeting tonight with, for our Mavis at Garfield, and we're going to discuss with them, so.
Now, how would an authority work? Explain it to us one more time.
The authority, if we did an authority with the fire departments, it would have to be all the fire departments forming a medical, basically do a medical response, because that's our big concern is the medical. Fire, basically, we have it covered, but medical is the time during the day when most departments are short. So the authority would be formed between those departments and set up how we're going to respond. And that's why we were bringing in Northern Bay to see if they wanted to, through Northern Bay, contract with the entities to cover the medical response. Correct, Bob? To cover the medical response with one unit.
So as you're saying, okay, that's medical. For fire, you're saying mutual aid covers the fire.
Fire, we're mostly mutual aid covered,
Okay.
but with being MFR licensed in Michigan, we have to provide 24-hour-a-day service in our entities, and that's where we're running short of having, basically to be licensed, we need 6 people available 24 hours a day, or 6 people to be able to cover the 24-hour-day shifts. So we're running concern with this whole issue of having, as Chief Martinsky explained, is the coverage for the medical. That's our problem. If we're licensed as medical first responders, we need to cover that 24-hour shifts.
I take it for granted that's gonna be part of your discussion tonight with all the other fire chiefs?
I'm gonna bring it up to them,
Okay.
you know, they're entities,
Yeah.
we discussed it 3-4 years ago about it.
Well, we talked about, finding out, how each one felt, for this meeting here, but, maybe tonight,
You talked about Bob.
yeah, he's the next one I'm gonna get at.
So
Okay.
So, you're gonna talk about it tonight as much as you can. correct?
I will discuss it with them, right?
Bob?
Yeah.
You're up.
Dave's absolutely right, it's a little different, covering fires than it is, adding the EMS side of it, because under the administrative rules with the state of Michigan, if you're licensed as an MFR agency, you have to cover your area or provide at least one medical first responder to respond 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The rule is, also in the rule, if you can't cover that, you're supposed to report that to your medical control authority. Believe me, that isn't done by anybody, and this isn't a unique problem to the northern area of Bay County. This is a statewide and national problem, not only on the MFR level, all the way up to the paramedic level. There's not a lot of EMS providers out there. There's not a lot of people going into EMS either as volunteers or as a career right now. So it's created quite a big problem. Add that to people who have dual jobs in the family, they have family commitments and that, along with the requirements on continuing ed that goes along with maintaining an EMS license even on the first response level. It makes it difficult for people to make a decision to go into to do that and keep all that up while still having a family life. So a lot of variables that creep into that problem at this point.
With you being, already having an interlocal agreement with the units that we're talking about, Garfield, there wouldn't have to be an authority, it could be run under you.
That, I don't know, it would probably be run under, if you put everything under Northern Bay, it would be under, the Northern Bay's Board, would be the ruling body.
Okay.
I don't know how you would set that up.
But now if you had people in the station, if you had, at least a couple guys there during the day, you have that covered. You just send, I don't know how they want to do it, we send the engine with the ambulance, so there you're, as long as you have one person on the engine that's medically trained to do something, plus then you still have firemen there to be able to do something. It seems like there's two different conversations going on here. It's what to do with the ambulance, but then there's still nobody going to station 16.
The ambulance
That's
isn't
not
an
a
issue
problem.
right now.
Pardon?
The ambulance isn't an issue.
I'm not saying it's an issue. What I'm saying is that they're trying to figure out a solution to it, and one way or another
The
is
ambulance
either.
is here just to try to help solve the solution.
Right.
We're still gonna respond. I mean, we have our crew that's
Exactly.
responding, but
But the problem is they have nobody from the fire department going. And so, if they want to fill station 16 with somebody there to run the engine, then the engine can go with, a medical cost. What difference does it make what piece of equipment goes out? Absolutely none.
If we're dispatched as MFR, it has to be a medically licensed apparatus.
And so you can't apply for a
And-
license for an engine?
They're all licensed.
Oh, okay.
The problem is manning that
24 hours a day.
24
No, I'm
hours
not
a day.
saying that. I think that they need to look at a plan for,
And that is, what we're looking for is a plan to have someone be at a station, whether it be at Pinconning-Fraser Fire Department to respond, or to have a combination of using all the departments
Right.
going together, and that person would cover the entire Northern Bay County with a unit.
Right, it's one guy in a buggy, I think, yeah, we talked about that the last time, you know.
Right, so that's where we're trying to find a solution. The problem is that we can't, I believe, I don't have any other chiefs here, but that is an issue sometimes during the day of us, you know. A prime example would be Garfield. They have an issue, they have to call Beaver up to come up and cover. That was Auburn's issue, is that the daytime they didn't have.
Right, and so,
And they were getting in a situation where they were mutual aiding with Monitor Township, and Monitor Township wanted to charge them to make the response, not using mutual aid
well,
because.
and I understand that, and it's just, I just recall back to the very first meeting I ever showed up here at, when there was a big discussion at the table of your one lead engine that you have, you know, should it go to station 16, but no, because it should be here at 15, but at least you have a couple guys. So, at one time they were talking about, well, let's, you know, what if we put, you know, some people on duty at station 16, then the engine could go back there. But then, you know, I understand, you know, if you don't have volunteers there now, I could be able to get them at nighttime to go there. But at least during the day, it solves your problem a number of different ways. It allows you to go on EMS calls, plus you have two people there who at least, you know, and then if you, I mean, again, and if it's during the day and you decide you're gonna hire a part-time chief or something, at least during the daytime, you're gonna have to go out with a three-man engine company, which is gonna handle 90% of anything that occurs in this fire district, I'm pretty sure of that.
Dave, when I was asking Bob about the authority versus what we already have, I was just looking at, would we have to reinvent the wheel if we had that already in place? Because we're using the same units of government.
The ideal with using Northern Bay would help, but it also comes to the fact that the entities are going to have to contract with Northern Bay for that coverage, just as Mount Forest contracts with Gibson to provide their coverage. So it would have to be Northern Bay's board saying, okay, your mills that you're going to have to pay doing that. The only thing that I've been exposed to with authorities is that authority can levy a mill versus what entities can levy a mill for service. Like Northern Bay, if it's formed as an authority, you have the advantage of the taxation is easier to do through an authority for fire protection or medical response than it is through entities doing it.
Right. The other issue that I was looking at when we started this, and it's come up again, is somebody being at Fraser. I think you gotta look at the geography here, because as far as medicals go, in Pinconning, we have an ambulance, what, mile and a half away? Same way with the city, you have your ambulance a mile and a half away. I can understand the problem in Fraser and in Mount Forest and in Gibson and Garfield, because I've ran out there and I really appreciated having somebody there. But being we're so close, because we had to go out there, that somebody be there before us. But we're really close. That was an issue that I'm looking at, is usually you could get on scene just as fast as the fire department right now.
Yeah, depending on where the call is, yeah.
You know, basically, that's, but I can see the issue with the other units of government, and I can see if we get a full-time person, that full-time person, if it would be just this fire department saying, okay, we're gonna put somebody on for 12 hours, and we're gonna station them at Fraser, we still have mutual aid agreements we have to abide by. So when Mount Forest had somebody, at least they're coming up here saying, what can we all do, because it's gonna be used by everybody. You gotta appreciate that. We have an issue, but everybody's here to figure out a way to fix it.
Sharon, too, that you have to throw this in the mix with Northern Bay. Northern Bay's volume last year was 802 emergency calls. Right now, we're sitting, as of today, we're sitting at 1,015. And out of all the calls we run, we track the calls that additional calls that we take like transfers and that. But we've missed 131 calls between average turnaround time when we, on any call, unless we go to Standish, which we do occasionally, at any of the other larger hospitals, it's at least hour and a half to 2 hour turnaround time before we're back in our area. So during that time that we're out, if another call comes in and you don't have medical with the fire departments to run, you use a mutual aid in some cases. Plus, you're also getting ambulances coming from the city because nobody backfills anybody anymore. You guys know, as a Northern Bay board, that we've been running to the city considerably lately on emergency calls that they don't have the staffing for as well, so.
Will that change when they get their new ambulances in?
What's that?
Will that change when MedStar comes in?
You know, no, I don't think it will at all, because MedStar, is in the business to make money, and they want the transfer load on AMAT. From what we've heard, and this is just rumblings, if they come in, they're just gonna come in and assist the ambulance service there, the people that are there, like we do. But they're gonna base themselves primarily out of Flint, and that's where they're gonna send crews up from, is the Flint area. Don't quote me, because that's just, and I've heard that they've been pushed back a year before they'll be up here as well, because of their other contracts they're trying to sign. They've taken up, they bought up a lot of turf, or they're trying to take over a lot of turf, so all that's still in the gray areas.
But if you're running that many EMS calls, doesn't it just make sense then to put a second ambulance on?
We could have both ambulances in Bay City.
Well, that's true. I mean, we all know that mutual aid, I mean, there's something you can do about it. You can't change it. You can't say, no, I'm not gonna do it. So if the gentleman says that, you missed 131 calls because of whatever, but we're also running 1,100 calls a year, I mean, if you start looking at departments around the area and who run an ambulance, and you see those type of numbers for ambulance calls, you really need to think about it, putting a second ambulance on. So then, because again, you talk about, well, one guy in a buggy, showing up someplace, yeah, great, he's got all kinds of stuff and everything else, and he's all by himself. Granted, I'm sure whoever the medic is, yeah, the protocol and their stuff, but you're still by yourself. And you're still then waiting for an ambulance from God knows where.
But putting the second ambulance on still don't settle our problem we have here with.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all, and that's why it's two separate things, like I said before.
Well,
It's
we're
trying to
seeing if we
figure
can
out-
combine them, but I don't think it's possible. I think after talking to Bob, that we could run ambulance and.
I have a question. The people, a lot of them you said are cross-trained, that are on the ambulance with fire and medical, Bob?
We have some firemen out.
And, they are part-time?
They're part-time.
They're part-time and they work other places also? So your people could possibly, if we did get a paid, unit here, that, they would sign up for hours to work in our fire department?
They would probably, be willing to respond, and again, I'm not speaking for those people, but they may wanna respond on the ambulance to come up. Most of our people don't live in the area, again.
I said, would they come up and, work for 8 hours shift to sit in the fire station, get paid to sit? And
You'd have to pay them what they're making.
Yep,
If they're a paramedic, well,
Right.
we have to
Yes,
pay them as a
understood.
paramedic.
Yeah, right.
But if you're paying them as a paramedic, you might as well be using them as a paramedic at the same time. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're paying an expense that you don't need to.
I know what the changes the authority is trying to make, and I appreciate the move forward, because I think it's important. And I don't know the details, but would it be possible, like Gladwin County, that maybe if Bay City's part of this deficiency, that a countywide ambulance millage be looked at, or an authority-wide ambulance millage be looked at? I don't think it's a big number. I just wondered if that was one of the funding options you guys have talked about as far as solving these kind of problems. And again, new guy talking about raising taxes, but I'm thinking this is a safety issue and it probably would sell pretty well.
Fraser already has a
We have a
millage.
millage.
For that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
For fire.
Yeah.
Oh, you have an ambulance in it, okay.
No, we have a,
Separate.
Paramedic piece?
They have the same thing that the city has. They have Northern Bay fees on your taxes. I think it's $33,
It's a special assessment.
special
Okay,
assessment.
So some of that's already in place,
Yes.
thanks.
we have special assessment, then we also have a millage, a 1 mil for our fire.
Mhm.
To operate our barn, fire station, and to pay for our fire services out here. Three entities. I think we're the only one out of three that have the millage
Mhm.
right now.
It seems that's a viable option, it is something that I think people would buy into.
Countywide, you're talking about? Or
I
just-
said or authority-wide, or the individual units within the authority. Said Gladwin County levies one county-wide, if Bay City's having huge deficiencies, they may wanna be included in that discussion. And I don't know which way would be better for us, Northern Bay County, I'm not sure.
Traditionally, and Dave backed me up on this one, traditionally in Bay County has been grossly against, the townships have been grossly against, going to a countywide service for the last 40 years. The city fire department was originally offered, 45 years ago, wasn't it? Offered the ALS, the Advanced Life Support and Paramedic Service, and they turned it down.
Turned it
They
down.
didn't want it. That's how McLaren or Bay Med at the time wound up with the ambulance service. It's a problem, but you're also dealing with corporations like McLaren, who's in it to make money. They don't want to give up their ambulance turf coverage to the city or the county or anybody else. That's money out of their pocket, so you're gonna get a fight from the hospital. Not too long ago, the hospital fought the city fire department and the union there because they wanted to go advanced life support at the time. More recently, Hampton Township had a proposal, their fire department had a proposal on board just a year or two ago to go advanced life support, and they were fought tooth and nail, that they already had an ambulance service, they didn't need a second one, and they're in the toilet now, so, there's a lot of different models out there, but I'll be honest with you, you'd be more than happy, and I think a county-wide service is a great thing, but I'm not confident it'll ever happen here. I really am not with the culture that we have in the county. I mean, it sounds good, it sounds like people will want it, but you know, when you start talking tax dollars and just people get real funny. And that's why Northern Bay's been, I know our board's been real cautious about how they approach, our funding so that we can keep our revenue stream coming in. It's a tightrope, you know, so, and I can tell you, when you start talking EMS and equipment, and especially when you start talking advanced life support, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. And Dave and I talked about an echo unit, and I'm always willing to put on, an echo unit is a non-transporting paramedic unit. But the downside of that, there's a couple downsides to that. It'd be great if you could keep it here, and then when Northern Bay's out, you have a paramedic unit that can at least go and hold down the fort till another ambulance guy, and you have higher level care. But I know damn well that if the city needs an ALS unit, they're gonna call that echo unit out. You don't see that happen as much with the MFR units. I have been thinking about that, Dave. You don't see as much with the first responder units because there's enough first responder units close to the city that they can mutual aid if they needed to. Up here, if you have a paramedic unit, it's your paramedic unit, it's everybody's paramedic unit. So it may work fairly decent, but you can rest assured that unit at times would be pulled out to cover somebody else. The other side of that is from the EMS service standpoint, like Northern Bay, only a transporting ambulance can bill for paramedic services. So we could go and we could do that echo unit, could go by itself, do everything for that patient, start an IV, put a monitor on, put oxygen on, give them medication, do the whole 9 yards out of our equipment and our paramedic skills. And then Bay Med or MMR shows up and they load the patient up there, they head down and they get to bill. We don't. Our echo unit goes back into service, but you you guys as a whole are going to foot the bill for that. You're not gonna get any revenue on that call. The only other way you could do that is if you had a basic ambulance at Northern Bay that would come in the absence of a paramedic ambulance, and then that paramedic on the equity unit would jump in that basic ambulance, then Northern Bay could bill for that trip. But only a transporting ambulance can bill for an EMS call, the way it's set up right now in the
Okay,
United States.
I'm curious because, my mother-in-law is in an assisted living and they called an ambulance for her and she refused to go. They still charged her for non-transportation.
Depends on what the service is, and I probably know the service that came and picked her up. We don't. If they refuse as a community service to our people who pay their taxes, we don't charge them for that. The ambulance service can charge them for that. However, they can't bill their, like if it's Medicare or Medicaid, they can't bill their insurance.
Right, it's private.
They can bill the patient.
Yes, the patient, correct.
But
yes.
whether or not they pay for it or not, it's really up to the patient then. And a lot of people don't pay that response fee. There's services that, one of them in particular, that will bill because they just showed up. They got called by 911, so they showed up, but they didn't touch the patient, but they'll send the patient a bill. So I don't necessarily think ethically that's appropriate, but they do, and they can, but they cannot bill it. It would be illegal for them to bill it, especially the Medicare and Medicaid.
What's an echo service, what's gotta be staffed on it, I guess?
A paramedic, one paramedic.
Well, it has to be a paramedic.
Yeah, it can be like.
Can't call it anything else.
Usually it's like the pickup truck that they got at the fire station or a Suburban. And it's got the same equipment in it as the ambulance does, they just can't transport it. It's a non-transporting paramedic.
But it has to have a paramedic,
Has to have a paramedic.
I guess.
And anytime you have a unit licensed as a paramedic unit, you can't drop it down, like, if you don't have a paramedic to staff it, you're out of service. You can't staff it with an EMT or an MFR just because you don't have a paramedic. So if you license that at a paramedic level, has to be a paramedic on it all the time.
So we're talking about authority, Dave, that we don't have to staff it.
I guess it would be what level we wanted to have the rig at.
Right.
If we just, Bob's giving the ultimate level
Right.
that we could,
Well, I'm looking at our level.
our level, then that would have to be the agreement either of ours to staff it or to staff it for all the departments. And that's, how it would help the most. Bob's theory would be the most, then we could staff it and license it as a MFR unit. That would be one way of doing it.
You can license the vehicle at any level you want, from MFR, EMT, paramedic. But once you license it at that level, you have to staff it at least at that level. So let's say you license it MFR, like the fire department's on now.
That's what we're, that's
That's
what
what
we're
you're
looking
at
at.
now. You have to minimally have a medical first responder on it all the time. Could you put an EMT on it or a paramedic if you have those guys on your department? Yes, you can, and they can staff it. However, they can only operate up to the level of a vehicle's license. Does that make sense?
That don't mean they're gonna get called out to Bay City or,
Oh, no, they could. They could. No, they could, if there was no first responders in Bay City, yeah, they could call them under mutual aid. They don't usually, because there's generally more first response availability countywide than there is paramedic availability at certain times of the day. So, that's why our ALS unit, our paramedic ambulance, gets called to Bay City more often than you guys, the Dave or Garfield or any of those departments will get called down for mutual aid on the MFR level. They have usually fire response or somebody, or police response that can go and hold it down, and then they wait for a paramedic unit. So it's more common to see the paramedic units get called to mutual aid than MFRs.
So what kind of vehicle are you talking about then that you went with a medical first responder? Does that have to be an ambulance? That could be.
Dave's got it, you guys got
We,
it. You all have it.
Don't ask.
Pickup truck.
Donnie, we have them, all the departments have their pickup or a rescue
Right.
unit.
Yeah.
Right.
They have it. The problem is making sure that's staffed appropriately.
That's the
Like-
big problem.
It's not,
Like
it's
right
not a
now-
transporting unit.
Like right now with Mount Forest,
Mhm.
if you didn't have Louis Maniega during the day, you would be up against it. And in Garfield, if they didn't have, I'm not sure who's around during the daytime, but that's pretty slim in Garfield.
It is.
So, and, you know, without Louis and Mount Forest, it's slim during the day. So, that's why we're trying to include trying to get the thought going to get everybody involved, rather than just worrying about Pinconning and Fraser and.
If you had one rig was a medical first responder, and say, we get a call out there, where we're gonna station this at to be, you know?
He could-
Because ambulance would be,
the-
like Sharon had said.
The theory would be that it would kind of float. It could float from that town, from Mount Forest Township, Pinconning Township. It could float during its shift. It could be anywhere. And we could have him do one or two things. He could do checks at their stations. It doesn't have to sit in one spot. That rig could be floating.
Yeah, but he might be out there in Mount Forest, and you get a call over here in Pinconning, our ambulance is out, so now we got a first responder coming here.
Well,
He's gonna have to call over Mount Forest.
All I'm doing is trying to come up with
Yeah,
some
that's
ideas.
what I'm asking, about. I'm trying to
Because
figure it out.
There's no perfect fees.
There's no,
There's
not.
gonna be a
there's
time.
no
there's
perfect
gonna be a
medium
time
because
when they're not available. It's just, it's gonna happen.
nobody, like Bob said, the EMT levels are depleting, the paramedic depleting. I just was with Mitch Oliver the other day in Standish. He had 8 guys in the firefighter class. They're down to 4 because 4 quit. The one we just put on, he told me last night at the meeting that he's not gonna be able to go to the class anymore. He has to quit. So there's nobody that wants to be on the department. The theory is that we wanna provide the best service to the community. That's why we're in the EMS area. Gladwin Fire is, to go with Mr. Moffat's comment, Gladwin Fire Authority doesn't respond to medicals. Standish Fire Department doesn't respond to medicals. The other day we had an arrest in Standish that they sent 2 ambulances on because they didn't have any fire. They didn't have that. They're not licensed like we are as MFRs. That's a choice of the entities to stay licensed as MFRs and provide that service. So that's where we're getting into that issue. As long as we're providing that service, these are the coverage that we need in a 24-hour period, 365 days a year. And when we're doing, like we are, 600, almost 700 calls, people get burnt out. That's why we're looking at covering those weak times when we need the help. That's what we need.
The other
So-
side of that too, that, most people don't see, and don't even consider is the time and training, that the EMS providers, it's not an option that they keep their continuing ed up, it's a state requirement. So, in addition to going through classes, and now another thing that threw a wrench into it too is now the MFRs have to take a national registry test where they never had to take it before. So we've lost a lot of first responders just because they can't make it through the test, the national registry test. Before, we used to teach them in class, they took the tests in class, we ran them through the practical, and then we sent the paperwork into the state saying they did everything correctly, they should be licensed, the state issued first responders a license. Not the case anymore. It costs money to do that on top of it, so it's costing these individuals money out of their pockets or their department's pockets to get this licensure. Then on top of it, maintain at a minimum for first responders 15 credits over a 3-year period where they have to get these required credits in. And that's a state mandate. They don't have an option. They don't get their credits in 3 years, they lose their license.
So they have, where do they continue those classes at?
We do them at Northern Bay. In fact, we're doing 2 weekends coming up here in January.
And are they,
So we make it available. I mean, and we don't have to. If we didn't do it, they could get some of them online, but they have to pay for it. Or they have
that's to
to
say they have
travel
to pay for
somewhere.
the ones that you supply to?
Not for the northern areas, though. We do them for the fire departments up here at no cost because they help us out. So, yeah, and we all need the credits too, and the paramedic level as well. So, yeah, we just get together, we do them. And they have to be state approved and everything.
As far as your theory about responding, that person would be in the vehicle. He would leave from wherever he is, that unit is, would be going. It's not like, you remember, when you were on the department, you had to get up out of bed, put your clothes on, you had to go to the station, you had to get the truck out, where this person is responding practically at the same time.
Well, he's already on the route.
And the theory would be to keep them,
Okay, do you think there would be enough first responders out there to fill these vacancies?
well, money talks. You know, just like Bob said, money talks. If you're giving a guy, I mean, how many guys, Auburn was here the other day and their budget for their department is $241,000 just for wages. Because they had to put somebody on 24 hours to cover their shift and their wages. And that is paying, you know, the guy to be there plus hourly wages for the volunteers. So if you can find somebody that wants to work for $13 an hour, $12 an hour, then they can come in part-time. I know I have 2 guys that said, hell, I'll work for that price, but, you know, they're not gonna, so you have that issue.
Is there anybody in the northern area, Dave, or I guess you're referring to Albert, that has this perfect system?
Nobody has a perfect system in the fire service, not raw short. Why do you think Buena Vista is going to looking at a public safety? Because they're having trouble.
We're trying to find a perfect system.
We're not.
The one exists.
We're not.
Absolutely isn't, George, unfortunately.
There's
I
only
wish there was.
that, and Bob, you know, between us, we probably got 90 years of service in EMS. And we've never seen a perfect service in our experience.
I can honestly tell you, and Dave, I don't know if you agree or not, I've never seen the EMS system this bad in this area, ever.
no, and even back in Illinois, the thing is, when you're in Illinois, when you get hired on the fire department there, you're required to become a medic, and you have to sign a contract that you'll remain that, you know, for your 20 years of service. And unfortunately, when you're talking, you know, volunteer paid on call departments, they can't, you know, I mean, once you guys cross that threshold and hire your first full-time person here, it's a completely new ballgame. It'll be completely new. That person can't do anything without him getting paid his hourly rate. So you can't say, okay, you're gonna, during the day, we're gonna pay you $15 an hour, but we want you to come back on calls at night for a $10 flat fee. Just can't do it. Fair Labor says, nope. You have to declare whether that person's an exempt employee or not from FLSA. And
Well, you can pay him if he's not an exempt, you know, just.
What?
I said you can pay him if he's not exempt.
no, he is exempt because when you.
What's the number? There's a number of, a certain number that I, found out that you gotta make something like $30-some thousand or over $30-some thousand.
Well, yeah, but you're looking at a career firefighter. I mean, that's the problem with the fire service in this whole country, is there's no parity. You know, you can work in one department. I worked on a department where I retired as a lieutenant and I was only making $60 grand a year. 2 towns over, a lieutenant with my number of years on was making almost $100,000 a year. So there's no parity in anything in the fire service nowadays. And the only thing about, you know, and Bob, you were talking about that, how here, whenever you can't build for an echo unit or whatever, then it's kind of ridiculous to not, then why have it? So you're gonna have the guy drive around, waste gas, everything else.
The only way you can build for the echo, and you can to a degree, but you have to have a contract with the transporting ambulance. So to get an agreement, and you can only get the part for ALS. You can't get mileage, you can't get the BOS.
Well, we used to get, again, from, my department was an ALS call, you're gonna get billed $3,000 for the ambulance, then you're gonna get billed $200 for the fire engine showing up, and $100 for each man hour that was there. If the battalion chief showed up, you'd get $125 an hour for the battalion chief. So, you know, we used to bill for everything, and as far as I know, every department around has to do that. You know, you pay taxes, but taxes are kind of just like, I guess it's an insurance policy to ensure that the fire department's gonna show up, but if they show up, you gotta pay for that service. And I think that that's, obviously, you guys I don't know how much, you know, what the ambulance budget is, or how much you pay your medics, or I assume you're paying your medics somewhere between 40 and 50 grand a year.
This is the sticks.
Well, you're in the wrong county.
Okay?
Yeah,
That's
even-
fine.
Even the ones in the city don't get paid that much,
In what city?
in Bay City.
Oh, because again, they work for a private.
Private, yeah.
Obviously, unions and that. I just saw a thing, I was reading in a magazine, there's some department in Florida, I don't know, Port St. Lucie or something like that. Firemen top out there, blue shirt firemen, tops out $110,000 a year. Sometimes, you know, and again, believe me, I was a union fireman, I'm not a big union supporter, because they really don't do shit for you, but, you know, it's fire departments and privates are, you know, certainly, and it's unfortunate, because up here, privates are almost like third service, which is really like, Chicago Fire Department, their paramedics are called third service, you know. So their pay is comparable to what firemen in that are making. They're no longer, you know, at the bottom of the run, because, you know, but you can work for a private in the city that only does transports, and you're right, those guys are probably making 12 or 13 bucks an hour, and that's it, you know.
We do make more than the firemen, as paramedics.
Well, I'm sure up here, you know, it's, you know, but.
But we're looking at volunteer departments up there too.
Yeah.
And traditionally it has been. I mean, you have to, our volume certainly isn't what it is, even down close to Saginaw, even Bay City. But it has increased significantly up here, so, yeah, and our board, I think, knows, the NBA board, because we've talked about this, we're sort of on a threshold here, you know, do we add at least another half truck? What do? Because we cover a huge, 200 square miles up here. It's a long ways to go. You're out in Gibson, or you're out west somewhere, and you have to take that truck out of service for transport to one of the trauma centers. You know, you got a bad patient. You're out of service for a long time. So you definitely need some type of medical response here. We really do need to look at finding some type of system that works up here. Otherwise, if we don't, you're gonna wait for an ambulance. It's either gonna come out of Aranac on a good day, but even they're having staffing issues across the border there with MMR, and, or you're gonna get it out of Bay City, and you know, that's a half hour, to our station's 20 miles from our station to the center of Bay City, so half hour trip, if not longer.
And it's like MMR, do they, like their ambulance out of Standish, head someplace. Does MMR then get an ambulance that moves up towards that area to try to cover, or, I mean,
No.
there's no, when you guys go mutual aid, you know, you have an EMS box or something, do you have companies that then fill in at the station? I mean, so if you go to, you know, a second level box, and so does somebody from Bullhunk, wherever, Michigan, show up at guys have-
occasionally, if there's a big fire, they may move somebody.
No, we'll just have somebody do standbys.
Okay,
We're not moving up.
okay.
Oh, so you don't have, like, if your station's empty, you don't have an engine company from Bay
No.
City come out here?
No, no.
And that's just you guys, or is it everybody up here?
Everybody. We'll notify Standish that they're covering because it'll take the 4 departments that's up here for a house fire, so.
But you don't request Standish's engine to come here
We don't.
and sit?
We tried that once for a year and it just didn't work out.
I know they did it for a bit. But yeah, when we went out in years past, they would, the other services would bring a truck up maybe halfway, just to stand by. If our crews are counting crews in the city, especially when crews on nights that do it, our crew may get in their ready to go down to Kitchen Road if they know the city's on the trucks, because they're next on the backer market to get the call. And that's the downside. We don't know all the time what's going on in the city. If they're not scanning, they don't know. And we're generally getting dispatched out of our main station right in the city to go down. And again, that's a half-hour trip into the city. And we do quite a bit in Beaver right now. We do quite a bit of Column as well. So, we've been to Hampton. We've been to Hampton several times. We've been to Essex, we've been to Bay City. And the downside is we're getting actually getting, so we're getting revenue from some of those calls, but at the same time, like I mentioned, at 131 calls up here, we tend to miss while we're down there. For instance, we were down in Hampton, we ran a call up here, got dinged coming out of the hospital for a Hampton call, and then lost 2 calls up here that were ours in our own area, that those patients had to wait for the truck to come from the south. So, it's walking a tightrope. It really is. You know, unfortunately, if you say, well, somebody's gonna die, somebody's gonna die, that's the hazard, that's the danger. It is. Something's gonna happen. It just is.
Don, on your thing about where is this truck gonna be stationed if we go to authority, it'd be similar to what we have with Northern Bay, you know, they all come out of Pinconning, so if somebody's on, you know, it'd probably be closer now, you know, if we have somebody from your area or Fraser Township area or Garfield, you know, if somebody's on call or that person's from that area and they're in their vehicle, then they'll be there a little quicker than from Northern Bay. It's similar to Northern Bay, you know, you gotta be stationed somewhere, but.
Well, they're there, they're not like at home, like Dean said,
Right.
not.
Yeah, and if we have an authority like Dave was talking about, that somebody will be somewhere within our area,
Mhm.
you know. It might be even closer than what, you know, than what you have NBA at.
You know, and unfortunately, as much as we don't like to talk about it, we have to talk about its money. It's not cheap to provide EMS service, it really isn't. Either on the fire side, if you're gonna do it and have the coverage, well, unfortunately, you have to put somebody in the truck.
I guess what we gotta find out from Dave is after he has his fire chief's meeting tonight, is who's on board, who's not on board, or close to it, Dave, with the other areas we have here, Garfield.
Well, I will add, yep. But the ultimate comes down to the
Each township.
Each township.
That's what I mean,
What they
you know,
wanna do.
yeah.
You know, the chiefs, I'm quite sure are gonna say, yeah, it's a good idea, but I need 30,000 from that township to
Mhm.
pay for this. You know?
What do we do with Gibson? Yeah.
When it comes to funding, then how would we, do the funding for that? Would we go through a millage, or can we go with a special assessment with that also?
This is kind of what I led into at the beginning of the meeting. This is where I can help you. When you figure out how much money you need and you have the information about your values and your existing villages, it would make sense that when those come up, we ask for renewals and we figure out what that little fraction is that we want or need. That may be the best approach over the next year or so to try and bring the money in, step up the service, bring the firemen up to the staffing levels you want, and bring this medical to you want. So I will help you guys when you get to that point. I really can help you with some of that. We will need the taxable value, and we'll need the existing rate, and what money comes in. From there, I can move things around and try and figure out where and how that money would come from as far as looking at millages. So I'll help you guys with that when you get to that point. I think you need to figure out what can we get approved and how much money can we bring in and what can we do with that money. I think it's almost kind of both ways. But I can help you with some of those estimates.
I mean, because really, you guys don't bring in anything right now, I mean, for the most part. Yeah, you do, but let's face it, I mean, you know, you guys somehow you have to increase paid on call to some type of, you know, hourly rate. You can't give a guy $10 for showing up, I mean, it's just not, you know. And you should look at your budget and say, okay, the national average is anywhere from 70 to 90% of your budget just goes for manpower. At the department I was from, we were at about 83%. It's just one of those things, that there's nothing you can do about it. And that's a number to start looking at. Okay, so we take in X amount of dollars. If we take 70% of that, what is that gonna give us? You know, how many, you know, what can we get for that, you know? And really, you're talking two separate taxing bodies, whether you're talking about the ambulance, or you're talking about the fire department.
No, we can only talk about fire department right here, so.
Well, I know that's all you can talk about, but obviously the discussion has
Yeah,
broadened.
it's two different
you know.
types of money we got coming in, you know, some have villages and the other one's public, or, special assessment, yeah. Oh, you know, we're here to discuss it, that's what it's all about.
I got a,
Sure, Jack.
I had some questions answered by listening, and one of them was, now, Dave, we have the Rescue 15, which is the medical truck that goes on the runs, correct?
All four of our apparatuses licensed.
But I mean, that little van is basically used just for medical.
Yeah, that's our Rescue 15, and then we have Rescue 16, which is a pickup that's at Station 16.
Then my other was that Mount Forest has the same type of a vehicle that.
They have a rescue truck, which is a little heavier apparatus, and Garfield has a truck the same as what Station 16 has as a pickup.
Okay. So the outside townships, they have the same equipment we have, basically. So now, if you're toned out here at 15, Ron does a lot of the runs, I know. He can't make it. Nobody is making that run. Now, does Mount
We
Forest?
call on to, after 3 pages, it goes into the mutual aid of the closest station, which would be Mount Forest. Up here, the southern part would be Station 14, which is Cuckolin, and they come up.
Okay, so somebody else gets toned out if that one station can't go, or
Correct.
does not respond. Okay,
I'd like to make one thing clear. I do not go on runs unless Northern Bay goes on, because I am not qualified as an MFR.
right, well, if I stated it
The
wrong,
only
that's
time
not
I
how
go
I
on a
make it.
call is if somebody's having a cardiac arrest, because I'm certified for that. That's the only time I go by myself.
Right, that's not what I was stating it, I'm just saying that I know you go on a lot of runs, and, Ron, you're probably more than qualified to do whatever you're doing, but whatever, and that's not the issue. So, I'm sure the other 2 townships, along with everybody else, money's tight, budget is tight. We lose revenue from the state that maybe we used to get, it's not coming in no more. So, we have to figure out how to make revenue. As you stated out there, there is no perfect scenario to fix what we're trying to fix here. Today is one thing, tomorrow is totally different. You didn't even see that one coming. I'm just hoping that through this board, through the other two townships, Mount Forest and Garfield, that we can come together as an authority and try to work together, because I think it's time that we become, I don't wanna say one, but be together and try to get what's best for everybody worked out and go forward with this. I mean, we can beat this up month after month and not really make it nowhere. I'm just suggesting, I hope the other townships look at it, and I hope we can work together and come together, however it works out at the end. And we can all be happy the decision we made. As the chief from Auburn, was it Dave, that's
Yes.
come here?
Yes.
They've been at it, whatever, couple years. He says, there's no perfect fix. Every year something new. You have to address something as it goes, whatever comes up. So there is no perfect fix that we're gonna start with, but we'll improve and keep going forward. I just wish that we can come together as a one big unit, or whatever we call it, and have the support to move forward with the fire departments and with the Northern Bay Ambulance. And basically, that's what I wanted to say.
So what's the game plan?
Game plan is that we're, all these workshops help. I mean, that's why we have them, that's why we're working together on it. We just gotta get a little more information from the other townships. I know as a board, we will be meeting at our regular board meeting January 22nd. And from there, we'll probably discuss it a little more at our regular board meeting, and maybe possibly set up some more special board meetings after that to see where we're at.
Okay.
So,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
1 minute.
1 minute.